All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to yet another live show, another episode of Reactionary Opinions, the most based and reactionary show on the African continent, as always. Mr. Patriarch is here. How are you doing there, Mr. Patriarch?
I'm doing quite well. Just sitting here in the twilight for a change on account of the earlier start. Just gobbled down some Chinese food, and God, this fascism videos, it's taken a lot out of me. Just trying to, I just can't seem to find the time to finish it, but I think I'm finishing it tonight. So that's what I'm going to be working on after this. But other than that, I'm doing good. Aside from the load shedding.
Yeah, don't feel bad, Dylan. I have probably about 5 videos that are in storage at the moment that I've kind of shelved and stuff because I get, sidetracked. So Russell the Based, how are you doing there, brother?
Yeah, I'm doing well, thanks, man. Week's over, it's Friday. And I'm just busy as usual, but yeah, I'm gonna have a nice wind down chat this evening. Looking forward to it.
Ooh, another wind down evening. I wonder who else has a wind down. Anyway, so we originally had planned to have Citizen Guardian on the show tonight to talk about prepping and all of that, but unfortunately, the wanderer that is Eskom destroyed all of our plans by dropping the load shedding bomb on us again, and because of that, the times and stuff, he's load shedding because in a different part of the country and stuff, and load shedding didn't sync with our load shedding, so unfortunately he couldn't be on the show this evening, so we have to now postpone it to next week sometime, but we will be having that show next week sometime. But in light of the current events, we thought it would be fitting to talk about the absolute nonsense that is load shedding and kind of talk about the history of load shedding, why we're experiencing load shedding, and basically how we got into this situation. Eskom obviously previously was a relatively successful company and stuff, and today is in absolute tatters. Anyway, where do you guys want to start this off? Do you want to start off sort of where load shedding started, or you want to start off first where the Eskom of the past? I think, Russell, you might know a little bit more about Eskom of the past.
Yeah, one of the interesting things about Eskom is that I think in the late 90s, 1998, 1997, 1999, around there somewhere, Eskom actually won an award for the best power utility in the world.
In the world?
Believe it or not. In the world, yeah.
That is impressive. I'm shocked. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they were rated, or maybe maybe not the best, but like a really good power utility at one stage. Basically, I think in the 1980s they provided, I think they sold 80% of all the electricity, 80 to 90% of all the electricity on the African continent.
Good Lord! Wow.
Yeah.
So they're selling it to all their neighbors too.
Correct.
Well,
correct.
I mean, if you think about it,
you see, the thing is, the thing is, all right. If you're a power utility, right, you need to be able to find customers. You need to be able to find customers and give find customers and produce more and more electricity. You know what I mean? The more electricity you can produce, the cheaper you can make it. As soon as you start, it's economies of scale. So if you look at 50,000 to produce 50,000 megawatts per kilowatt is probably much cheaper than to produce 40,000 kilowatts. It just gets, because of the economies of scale that you're dealing with. And that's why, as long as you've got customers to buy from you, and surpluses, and people who will buy and pay you for electricity, you're actually in the pound seat. You should be making an absolute killing. Should be making a fortune.
Especially if you're a monopoly. I mean, like what Eskom
correct
is. I mean,
exactly,
a literal
exactly.
monopoly.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, if you're able to find yourself in that position, all right, there is just no way. Like they said, even if we get a blackout in South Africa where the whole system trips, there's nowhere else on the continent we can buy enough electricity from to restart Eskom. It'll take us 2 weeks to get the power grid back.
Yeah, that's the thing.
You get what I'm saying?
That's the shocking reality.
So it's quite something, the way you look at Eskom. Eskom became so efficient that they were looking for customers everywhere in like the 1980s and what have you. Up until about the 70s or so, most farmers didn't even farm with electricity. They used wind pumps and manual stuff and I don't know what they used, sort of thing to farm with. But a lot of the farms didn't even have electricity up until the 1970s or so. All right. And Eskom came in there. Oh, wait. We can sell you electricity. We'll bring the lines to you, 3-phase, all sorts of things. They were looking for customers. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
This was across the continent. It is quite something that it was quite a formidable power utility. Make no mistakes about that. You know,
they were pretty good at marketing as well. Clearly,
yeah. No. Look, they were looking for customers everywhere. You know what I mean? And that was they would literally try and find more customers for themselves. There's still actually aluminium smelters in South Africa. Aluminium smelters, not aluminum, aluminium. All right, aluminium. All right, smelters that use an incredible amount of electricity. They were able to, in 1990, lock in contracts for 25 years. That's how good they were. They were so confident in 1990, early 90s, that they actually gave contracts to smelters, aluminium smelters, for special rates for the next 20 odd years. You know, to be able to sell business to sell energy to. So it's quite something that a firm that was in the pound seats just then, and actually in the pound seat until 10, 12 years ago, really. 10, 12 years ago, which is not that long ago, really in the pound seats. But like I say, it's viewed as a pot of money. That was all Eskom was seen as. It wasn't seen as a power utility. It was merely seen as a pot of money.
Yeah, well, that's the whole thing, Russell. You know, when you mentioned that Eskom was able to, or you know, these businesses would come here and lock down sort of 25-year contracts with Eskom, these aluminium smelters and various other, you know, mining companies were also big ones as well. They would come in and sort of lock down these, you know, decade-long contracts. But that's how businesses work. I mean, a company like an aluminium smelter or a mine or whatever that are a high draw of electricity. They need a lot of electricity to operate their company or whatever it is. So they'll go to this place and they'll say, right, where's the electricity coming from? Okay, it's coming from Eskom's going to supply the electricity. Right, how many kilowatts do they have in storage? How does the grid look? What does the infrastructure look like? Okay, cool, it looks all good, cool. Businesses now are going to come here and they're going to say, yeah, Oaks, hang on. We need 50 kilowatts or whatever it is to run our business. Where's this going to come from? Is there stability? Is the power going to be cutting 4 times a day? And every time that the power cuts, it takes money away from these businesses. So why are these businesses going to come and invest money here? They're not going to come and invest money here because they're going to say, well, you can't provide us with a constant flow of electricity.
Mm,
Tough.
mm.
We're going to take our business elsewhere, and that's how it in a broader sense impacts the economy. You know, it's not just us as the consumers of electricity in our houses and smaller businesses and stuff, but major industrial businesses need major industrial level electricity. You can't be an industrializing country and have no electricity.
The thing is, I think residential only accounts for 15-20% of Eskom's supply. All right.
Yeah, exactly.
The rest is all industrial, the mines and everything up north, especially. And I mean, the thing is, it's so interesting that there was a report that came to that they said no, Eskom needs to drop its workforce by at least 5,000 staff. So the government basically said, yeah, we accept that we need to drop our staff by 5,000, but we can't do it. Those jobs are safe. So they said, literally, that's what the internal government report said, and the government said, okay, yeah, we know that, but we're not going to do anything about it. Those jobs are safe.
No explanations as to why they must keep the jobs or anything. Just like, yeah. we know we're overspending with paying salaries and stuff, but so.
And not only that, and not only is Eskom probably double overstaffed, the salaries that Eskom employees earn are 20 to 30% above market value.
Yeah, but not only that. I mean, the guys that they're hiring. I mean, I've heard nightmare stories about some of the oaks that they're hiring. You know, not qualified at all, even in some cases to do the job. You know, and high profile people that they're hiring. And you know, Eskom does have really, really good engineers, like top class engineers.
No, it does. They do.
Yes, but the upper crust management positions and stuff is filled with, again, you know, propped positions and I guess cadres and that sort of thing that have been put in these positions of power and stuff, and that's where the problem comes in.
Yeah,
well,
and a lot
say,
of the jokers they get on. I was listening. I'm sorry. I was just saying. I was listening to an interview of a guy who was trying to build. I think he was working on Medupi, and he was complaining about just the utter incompetence of a lot of the guys that were on the job site trying to get on with the construction of this thing. Like, I guess, like in the US, we call them power linemen or whatever, but your equivalent of whatever that is here is just, and he said he'd have to show up at 4 a.m. every morning before work just to fix all their fuck ups, like before the day actually begun. And then he'd do it again the next day. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like,
yeah. What
it sounds like an absolute nightmare.
How are you supposed to run a business like that? I mean, you know, I don't know if people think that Eskom is not a business or something, but it's purely a business. I don't know if people view a power supplier as something outside of business or something, but it's a business and it has to be run according to what works. I mean, yeah, but TIA, I guess. Yeah, so I was at bar. My dad says Eskom used to employ people who knew how to do maintenance, and qualified artisans did the work. Yeah, I'm assuming that a lot of the oaks that they employ now are really not qualified to do much in the line of work and stuff on these sort of things. And it's, you know, the point is that a power supplier is a incredibly technical job, and you really don't want oaks that don't know what they're doing stuffing around with the stuff. You know what I mean? You know, it's just bizarre. But anyway, so there's something also over here that Dylan mentioned. Dylan, I don't know if you want to talk about it. The balloon in Eskom employees that you mentioned. You want to just run us through some of those things?
So I saw this on an infographic a while ago, and I double checked to check its veracity, and apparently it's true. But between the years 2003 and 2017, the amount of ESCOM employees increased from about 32,000 to a bit more than 47,000. That is a 67% increase in people on payroll in a matter of 14 years. Now, while production of electricity actually peaked around 2007 or 2008, and then you started having breakdowns and stuff since then. So not only do we have less capacity now than we did, more than a decade ago, but the we have way
wage bill is through the bill,
way more employees than we could conceivably need. It's just absurd, and it's like Scott said, this comes a big pile of money. It to sensible people, it should be first and foremost, this is a utility which provides electricity, and will hire the people needed to do that. But to these characters, it exists for jobs first, electricity second, basically.
Yeah. Sorry, Glenn. I interrupted you. Sorry.
No. I was just saying it's just absurd. Like, I mean, you can't even hide these numbers. Like, I mean, like, there's no industry that can have basically over the span of the time from like start to end, like essentially next to no increase in electrical output, and yet increase their workforce by 67%. That's just freaking insane.
In the 90s, ESCOM only had about 17,000 employees, and they were producing 50,000 megawatts.
No,
with 17,000. So they're probably about 20,000 too many employees at least.
Oh, definitely. Easy. Yeah. So that's these things that have become so obvious, the inflated numbers of employees with the the lack of production and all of that is essentially, again, standard ANC policy. When the ANC came into power, all they saw with these big industries like ESCOM and SAA and all these major industrial powerhouses in South Africa at the time, they saw them, they said, yes, like at Oaks, you know how much money these people make, you know how much money ESCOM and SAA actually make. They make a ton of money, or whatever it is. So maybe not so much SAA and stuff, airlines, I don't know much about, but ESCOM is pretty much a cash cow. It makes buckets and buckets of money, okay? Or if it's run properly, can make, here's the thing is, we could literally have, with the infrastructure and stuff that we have in ESCOM, we could pretty much pay next to nothing for electricity in South Africa, next to nothing, because the potential is there for ESCOM to be run like really well, and we could pay next to nothing for. I think at one point, I remember reading sometime at one point that South Africa at some stage had one of the lowest prices,
the cheapest in the world.
The cheapest in the world.
Yeah, there we go. So you see, Russell just left the room again. Oh, yeah, Russell pushed the wrong button. But anyway, he'll come back. But they basically had the cheapest electricity in the world, and this can happen in South Africa right now if it was just sort of run properly. And
if you did maintenance, if you fired half the workforce and appointed positions based on merit rather than who knows who. Yeah. But so these are the hurdles we need to jump over.
Yeah, essentially, it's such basic stuff, But the ANC, they will not let go of their gangster tendencies, their ways to want to.
Precious.
It's mine.
Yeah. Oh.
I'm going to disappear.
Mine, precious.
Watch.
But Chick Dylan disappeared.
There he goes. That was a good one.
but that
Oh, thank you.
but you're right. Okay, so this is the point, is that the ANC sees these things, and they just, they think it's like an endless supply of money and wealth, and I can just sort of, just take as much as I want from it. Just a ginormous bottomless money pit. No concept of how these things work. I mean, it's quite clear that the ANC and stuff. Okay, here's the thing: is the ANC are incredibly good at being Marxists and communists. Let's not deny that. Okay, but they are incredibly useless at running anything. Okay, anything. Only thing that they're good at is like revolutionary crap. Okay, which is like Marxist garbage. Okay, but they're really, really useless at anything, at administering or running anything, because they don't understand. They've got no concept of money and business and economics and where any of this stuff comes from. No concept whatsoever. I mean,
No, but I mean, the thing is,
so obviously clear now.
In a revolutionary government's mindset, that nothing else matters but the revolution.
Yeah.
There is nothing else. There is nothing else other than revolution. There's the only thing that matters. No matter, you go anywhere in the world, China, Cambodia, Vietnam, Mozambique, Angola, Zimbabwe, the Soviet Union, Belarus, Romania, all revolutionaries involved there. They didn't care about anything else other than the revolution. So whether or not things are good or bad, or people's livelihoods are better, or the standard of livings are raised, people live healthier lives, all that sort of thing, that's not worth anything to a revolutionary.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter to them.
Talking about revolutionary, Tyrone Stevens said, he said, I was reading today, they're going to start imposing BEE penalties, 2% turnover, 1.5 million rand in fines. They're saying exact numbers terrible. I don't know what in fines they're saying. I don't know what that last part means, Ty, but yeah, so they're going to start implementing BEE or imposing BEE penalties. Again, revolution. Just like
you see, the thing is, it's more important to have a revolution than it is to improve the lives of people, or to maintain standards, or to build a beautiful city, or build a beautiful railway line, or a beautiful port, or a top-class electricity utility, or the world's best airline, or anything. The only thing that matters is the revolution.
Yeah. Again, it's the destruction of anything, colonial, and
that's just thrown out there to kind of cover their own tracks, just to show people that that's trying to tell everybody that their revolution is for good, for something good.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah, but we all know it's not. It's all demonic anyway. Yeah, Dylan, you wanted to say something. Sorry. You're muted, Dylan.
Oh, sorry. I was just saying, as Margaret Thatcher once said, they would rather have this than this.
Yeah. Always complaining about the gap.
Yeah. No, and I think part of it too is, I mean, it's just a gangster state is what it is. I mean, you see so many, part of it is ideological. Yes, you do have those, but I think it's fundamentally the way the state operates. It's a gangster state, man. It's if you look at the amount of killings that have happened for ANC councillors and like ANC members killing each other, basically to try and get hold of council seats all across, the country where they have electoral majorities. It's pretty startling, the amount of violence. And it all has to do with the fact that, if I'm in charge of this, if I hold this council seat, now all of a sudden I have a big say in where money goes. I get to decide who the contracts go to. I get to decide, you get the picture. I get to decide whose bread gets buttered and who doesn't. It's a very
and I earn a good salary at the same time. I mean, I could have been the high school janitor earning X amount, but now I've quadrupled
more than that, man. Really increased. Big payday.
Basically, or put an extra zero behind what I was earning, type of thing. You know what I mean?
40 times. Yeah.
Yeah. So the reason why Russell's saying that is because we actually know of a guy who's an ANC councillor or something, and he's a janitor at the school that we went to as kids. He's a janitor, and he's an ANC councillor earning a fat paycheck, and he's a janitor. I mean, what the heck does this oak know about running anything or anything to do with politics in that, for that matter? What the hell does he know? It's just the most, I don't know.
He knows the most important thing of all, Scott. He knows the right people.
Yeah.
And they know
him. Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah, that's exactly it, Dylan. And it's the whole. If you watch any sort of gangster documentary or whatever it is, and you see how the guys sort of climb the rungs in those documentaries, you'll see it's exactly the same way that the ANC oaks climb the ranks. It's the most bizarre thing ever. It's exactly the same way.
Yeah, and you need no more, and you need look no further than I was just I saw a news report. This ties into ESCOM, but it was talking about how there was an auditing of municipalities all over South Africa, and basically everywhere outside the Western Cape is in total financial Armageddon. They see the black hole and it's right over there, and the spaceship is slowly drifting towards it, and it's just absurd. And they're all either ANC or EFF sort of dominated areas. And what you're seeing there, the patronage, the corruption, the palm greasing and whatnot, is exactly what they've done to ESCOM. It's at literally every level of government and civil service. So whether it's a national power utility, whether it's education, whether it's local council seats, it's all patronage to give out to your friends and forget everybody else.
Yeah, it's exactly that. It's quite annoying, actually.
It's dark, man.
That also. I mean, it's almost as if we are us as taxpayers are patrons to this big mafia. You know what I mean? And that's the most annoying thing.
Shake out money.
Yeah, it's the most annoying thing. We are patrons. We are supporters to this mafia, this big gang, and it's just sickening. And
I wouldn't feel so bad about it if I lived in a safe country and my roads were paved and I didn't have to get just deal with all the shit that you have to deal with in South Africa compared to other places. So it's just like a total slap in the face. You get robbed and nothing for it.
Yeah, that's so true. Dylan, is you can get robbed, you can get hijacked, all of these things, and then what? I think that's the most frustrating thing, and that's something that kind of that a lot of South Africans think about a lot, and why a lot of people immigrate is because you get hijacked or something gets stolen, your house gets broken into, your car gets stolen, whatever it is, okay? But and now what? It's there's no justice. Criminals get away with these things all the time because this is the government is a criminal organization. Again, Czech Russell. The government is a criminal organization, and they always, there's never going to be any justice for anything. So I think that's why a lot of people immigrate, because they're like, well, I just had my car stolen, or I've just been hijacked, or whatever it is. I'm not going to see any justice. So I'm going to go somewhere else where I might, if something like this happens, I might see some sort of justice. I don't know. Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah. No, and to tie it back to the electrical blackouts, as we call them, or load shedding, as you guys call them. Aluminum blackouts, load shedding.
The correct, I'll agree with you there. Blackouts is the correct term.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. Load shedding just sounds nicer. So you have multiple ways where this electrical, load shedding phenomenon can take place. So in South Africa, fundamentally, it's due to corruption. Right, so they've turned Eskom into an enormous patronage machine, and money that could be spent on fixing things can be used rather to, get your cousin Matusi a job or pay you to do nothing when you should be fixing stuff. So fundamentally, it's corruption and. Yeah, that's just basically what it is. It's corruption. However, in other countries, you also have this phenomenon, and believe it or not, the UK actually had a really bad series of blackouts in the 70s, but that was due to other actions. It wasn't really necessarily due to incompetence. What it was due to was because of strike action, which is also a problem that you see in South Africa. But in this one, you had the oil embargo in 1973, and the UK government, like everybody else, was like, "Oh shit, this isn't good." But then immediately after that, the the coal miners went on strike, and they're like, "Haha, now we got them over the barrel." So and then they basically, they wanted like if you look at the history of the UK economy from post-war until the 80s, it was kind of a, the sort of dystopian sort of thing that you see right now. You didn't really have the political gangsterism, but the level of the ability for organized labor to benefit themselves at everybody else's expense was kind of the same thing that you see here in South Africa as well. So basically what ended up happening is that the coal miners went on strike, and as a result, there just simply wasn't enough coal to put into the power plants, and they couldn't buy petroleum products to supplement the coal. So yeah, they're caught between a rock and a hard place. And the Tory government at the time instituted a 3-day work week. Just because they couldn't afford to have electricity on, for a full workday, and they put in all sorts of ridiculous regulations and shit that people had to follow, because you were dealing with organized labor who had a monopoly over energy production via coal, and when they had the chance to screw them over to get higher wages, they did. So that's a situation more of less sort of crude gangsterism and more of like union strong arming, which is sort of what you saw in the UK at the time, and that's sort of how they dealt with it.
And pretty much what you see in South Africa very often as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, again, I think that the unions and stuff are pretty much just sort of branches of the gang, like you get like the like hitmen, and then you get like the drug lords and the drug mules and all that sort of thing,
and the wise guys,
and all of that, and
all the bosses and wise guys.
All the bosses and wise guys.
What you talking about?
All the bosses and wise guys.
The wise guys. Freaking wise guy. Yeah, so it's the problem is, it's just there's total disregard for running these things efficiently, and it's just pure self-interest at the end of the day, and it's just disgusting to see. And I don't understand why people don't get it. You know, I think some of them do, but it's amazing. Like if with this ESCOM thing, you'll read reports and news stories, and they'll say, "Oh, you know, load shedding's come back. ESCOM says consumers need to tighten their belts and like use less electricity, and you know, you guys should really cut back on your power usage. We're trying to restructure ESCOM and like fix the grid and shit. You know, just hold your horses." But there's absolutely zero talk about firing the 50% of the people there who don't need to be there. And they're like, we need, you know, multi-billion rand cash infusions to keep us afloat because, oh, we don't have enough money. We're going to have to increase prices to stay open. Oh, when their biggest operating cost is labor, and they could well deal to get rid of half of it. I mean, it just shows how flagrantly dishonest it is. They call it the Washington Monument Syndrome. So when the U.S. Parks and Recreation, I don't know, the Parks Department was going to receive funding cuts from the federal government, they're like, okay, what's the one thing people really like to see that's within our purview that we could take money away from to make the public mad? They're like, okay. The Washington Monument. So they shut down the Washington Monument, and they're like, yeah, it's bad. If austerities here, the federal government, they don't care about parks. We can't have the Washington Monument open anymore. And people are like, well, what the hell? I love the Washington Monument. That's like, if I come to DC, I want to see the Washington Monument. And they use that as leverage, when in actuality, they did have enough money to keep that open and all the things anybody actually gives a damn about. But for all the, you know, people in the back room, the, you know, pencil pushers and whatnot, they those people, their jobs are very safe. So it's the same thing with ESCOM. You know, they're like, okay, we're going to need to increase prices, otherwise, you know, we're not going to be able to survive. But they won't do the one thing that would make them solvent, which is fire. You know, a lot of people.
That's probably why they created that show, Parks and Recreation.
Yeah.
Ron Swanson was something.
Oh, yeah, Ron Swanson, yeah, classic. Anyway, so I think what Dylan's explaining there again is sort of a classic case of, and this happens all the time in South Africa, the classic case of the average person having to now carry the brunt of the government's stuff-ups again. So it's like, oh, no, we didn't do anything, guys, but you're going to have to now cut down on, you know, don't use so much electricity. We're going to charge you a little bit more. And you know what? Maybe we'll tax you as well a little bit more somewhere here or there. But we didn't do anything. It's not us, guys. Don't worry, you know, kind of thing. And I think that's a classic case of that. And that happens all the freaking time in South Africa. Before we move on to something else, guys, I just want to get to the comments section over here. So Capella says demographics, but obviously diversity is our strength. Take that back. Diversity. Anyway, Rob McLaren, he says there was a guy on ENCA this evening complaining about his bribe money he paid and did not get the job. He said he wants his money back. That is classic. Russell, mute yourself, man. Yeah, horribly laugh. Anyway, so what does he say here? What's going on here? There we go. Oh, there we go. Just went slow. He says, "Good evening, my fellow apes." Capella says, in LA, the mayor recently threatened to cut homeowners/business owners water and electricity supplies should they break the Wuhan flu restrictions. Yeah, you see that, you know, that's something that you could expect from a place like LA, you know, where they give the government full mandate to do whatever they want. You know, that's, you know, commufornia. That's the whole thing. Proudly Neanderthal says, ANC has solved the energy problem. This is going to be good. contract signed for Turkey to send ships that dock at harbors, connect to grid and boost supply. See yesterday's expose at Daily Maverick. What?
Yeah, those are those power vessels that park in harbors. It's like a vessel, big vessel with just giant diesel generators on board that are mobile, that dock, and then they sell electricity to people. But those things are minuscule, man.
But how is that solving the problem? I mean, I know that you're probably being sarcastic, probably, Neanderthal, but that doesn't solve the problem. I mean, it must cost a bloody fortune, far more than it costs to fire 20,000 useless employees. That's all I'm saying. You know.
The only problem is the only problem is if you fire employees in South Africa, they'll burn the stations down.
Yeah,
that's true. That's very true.
That's true. And the police won't do anything to prevent that from happening. So yeah.
Well, we don't have a very good police and army to actually protect South African interests. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But there was a term that was developed. I think it was coined in the 90s by this guy Sam Francis, and it's called anarcho-tyranny. And basically, it's the situation where the law-abiding citizen is like, you know, he's worried. He doesn't really want to break the law because the government makes it clear that here's a perfect example of it. So when the Cape Town, they were protesting in Cape Town, some small business people to open up back the economy, and then the police turn on them with fire hoses. But then, you know, there's like rioting, people burn down a station, and cops are nowhere to be seen. You know, it's like selective. So they're like using this underclass of you know, just as almost like a bioweapon against you know, the people who want to sort of who keep everything floating. It's really bizarre.
Yeah, it's quite evil, that actually.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. Is there anything else that we want to discuss about this? I know that Russell wanted to discuss something else as well. Something that look. Do you want to discuss what you wanted to discuss, Russell, or can I rather interest some people in a?
Well, I mean, the thing is, there's nothing. I don't think it's.
What?
Well, we've said everything we need to say on S.
Oh gosh, Russell's internet just went really cuck.
Yeah, I'm here. I can hear you guys perfectly.
No.
Oh, now we hear you now.
Now we hear you, but obviously. What did you say? Sorry, I didn't hear what you said, Russell.
Anything more on Eskom? That's all I'm saying.
Okay, cool. So can I interest you guys in a little bit of humor over here? So this old man over here, this loving life guy and stuff, put this video up of hang on, let me screen share it with you over here because this is quite funny. Hang on. The Josie to Stellenbosch protests. I don't know if you guys heard about these protests, these Josie to Stellenbosch protests, but apparently they were threatening white people and they were going to attack white businesses and all kinds of other stuff. And this is going to be done and that's going to be done and all of that. And pretty much this was the result of but it's quite amusing. I'm just going to get to the part where it has the video in it. There we go. Here we go. So this is the this is the protest. Yes, it's funny. Hang on. Let me try and make the screen bigger. There we go. Better. They look angry, bro. They look really angry.
Do it today.
Watch out, watch out, watch out. This is funny. Oak, that oak juggling a brick. That oak was juggling a brick. Anyway, this is funny. Yeah, check here. Check the oak on the blanket. Check the oak's like parking off on the blanket. Check. Footstack.
Yeah, they chased those guys all the way up the hill as well.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, it's such hard at this, like that oak juggling a brick. Yes, like anyway, I thought that was quite amusing. Let's go to the comments over here quickly. Daily Maverick, proudly Neanderthal says Daily Maverick has a copy of a 6-page document from which purports to grant emergency approval for the project in response to COVID-19 pandemic situation facing the country. Is this with regards to the floating power stations then? I take it. I assume that's what the situation is. Interesting. What is this? What is story about South African doctor killed with panga in Canada? Good Lord, I don't know anything about that. Sideline opinions. Haven't heard anything about that. It's dodgy.
Do pangas exist in Canada?
Yeah, I don't know what they don't know if they even know what a panga is in Canada. They'd probably call it a
machete. They usually, but
machete.
Yeah.
Russell, if you're moving around, I'm just going to mute you. There. So 5 Turkish-made power stations could be sailing into the ports of Durban, Richards Bay, Kuru, Port Elizabeth, and Saldanha Bay soon. Okay. Interesting. I didn't know about that. I think it's a bit of a waste, but whatever. Russell, you're muted. I've just unmuted you. Sorry, you wanted to say something?
Yeah. That's just a waste of money.
I mean, yeah, I get I think that we're in a bit of a hard place because it's true what you say. If they had to fire, 20,000 employees or 10,000 employees or whatever it is, they would just burn the place down, and they would cause so much untold cuck, and I think that in order to avoid that, maybe they need to look at other plans, but that's not necessarily fixing the problem. You're not going to be able to fix the problem by spending money that you don't have in other areas, So I don't know. I don't know what the solution is really. Any thoughts on that, guys?
I've got no thoughts. You must remember these guys don't believe in production they don't believe that consumption happens, but you've got to produce something first. They think there's a money tree that you can just go and grab off, So that, yeah. But I think there's probably about 10,000, I don't know, somebody wrote an article, I heard about it, I haven't seen it, but somebody wrote a paper or a book or something that said there's about a small group of people in South Africa, I don't know how many, maybe like 10,000 or so, that have basically wrapped up the whole country's wealth. Basically, government and intertwined with big corporations and state-owned entities. Basically, I
wouldn't be surprised. I mean, again, that's a full-blown mafia structure. That
But yeah, I don't think anything. I don't expect sort of much changes. Going forward, the only thing that I can see happening, which will be a good and a bad thing, will be the ANC devouring themselves. That's about the only thing that's basically the biggest threat to the ANC is the ANC.
Yeah, so they were talking about now what's going to happen soon is they're going to be, slacking down on the lockdown and going to level 2 or whatever it is. I'm actually a little bit disappointed with that. I actually wanted them to keep pushing harder. I actually wanted them to actually properly destroy themselves. You know, I don't think Oaks have cucked off enough yet. You know, I think I was actually a little bit disappointed. If they go down to level 2, I might be a little bit disappointed, actually, to be honest. Russell pushed the button again. Always pushing the wrong button.
Yeah. No, it's I don't know, man. I guess the last thing I just have to say is it's like we know what needs to be done. Like it's pretty obvious what they have to do if they really wanted to fix things. But the problem is the realpolitik of the situation makes that very, very difficult. Because the coalition that they have put together and whatnot, you have a lot of people benefiting from the system as it currently exists, and you need them in order to have your, majority or have things function to a certain extent, or to have the structure intact, is what I meant to say. And if you start going around, metaphorically cracking skulls and sweeping shop, there's going to be a lot of people who get pissed off about it, and they're going to turn on you, and then you're going to be in an internal power struggle, which might not have a happy end for you. So it's you're really kind of playing with fire here, and I think a lot of people sort of recognize that, but nobody wants to mention it openly. Like we're kind of held hostage to a certain extent by it. And I think even the reformers, I think there probably are like some fairly. I was listening to an interview. There was some pragmatic, like old, like liberation sort of type members of the ANC, and they're talking to this guy who was being interviewed, and he said, he's like, yeah, I tell them all this stuff, and they're like, yeah, we get it, like, you're right, but I mean, like, we can't do anything. Like, it's just like we're held hostage by the ideologues on the one hand and the gangster element on the other, and it's like, and if I'm not entirely sure that unless you sort of meet them with force of some kind, like and hashtag, not advocating violence, but unless there's like a firm sort of law and order hand taken here, and you make it very clear that you're going to enforce the law as it exists, and in an effort to sort of clamp down on corruption and do this sort of stuff, you're not going to get anywhere. And even the people in law enforcement can't be relied on. So it's really kind of a shit situation. It's a shit sandwich, and we don't have enough bread. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. So Dylan, about that, the interesting thing is we've been talking about this, and the structure of the ANC and stuff is 100% gangster. Okay. But like not like gangster in like the cool way of
no A on the end of it. It's not gangsta. It's gangster.
Yeah, proper gangster, old fashioned gangster, not gangsta. But anyway, and the thing about gangs and mafia rule and that sort of thing is that when mafia, or when a mafia family or a ruling mafia power is, let's say, defeated or whatever it is, or they die or whatever, or they're killed or whatever it is, it doesn't, the system, the gangster or the mafia system doesn't disappear. All that happens is it just changes power. It just changes arms. Okay, so there will always be this in South Africa. There will always be this strange, bizarre sort of gangster system or spirit, that just changes vessels, from one person to the next. You know what I mean? And it doesn't sort of disappear. That's why I say the only way, and I agree with Dylan, is the only way that you're really going to get rid of this stuff is by some oak that comes in and just absolutely kicks ass, like just starts, putting an end to these things. Like in Peru, where my wife's from, they had this guy. His name was President Fujimori. Okay. And Fujimori gets a lot of grief nowadays. He was basically Peru's Augusto Pinochet, and Augusto Pinochet also gets a lot of grief nowadays as for crimes against humanity, you know. And this Fujimori guy is actually currently in prison right now for crimes against humanity. And basically, what happened is he basically got fed up because Peru was run by gangsters and drug lords and all kinds of stuff. So what he did was he just took the army and he was like, yeah, okay, now we're ending this. Okay. And he just went in there and he just went absolutely ape. Okay. And he started, you know, just if you were like even associated in any way with these gangs or whatever it is, boom, dead, just like went crazy and absolutely just started slaughtering oaks. I don't, again, like Dylan said, what asterisk or whatever it is, not advocating violence. Okay. But I'm saying like this is unfortunately a lot of the times what it takes to get these things clean. And Peru is a better place today because of it. I mean, there's obviously still a lot of dirty parts and stuff still left over that still lurk around, but it is definitely a better place because of it. I just want to jump into the comments over here. Sideline Opinions mentioned about that doctor in Canada. He says a South African doctor was attacked by a Sudanese patient and killed with a panga and hammer in his walk-in clinic in Red Deer. Good God. Why on earth would you do that?
Yeah, they post these South African doctors into these small town outposts of the Canadian health system in these smaller sort of districts and towns and that sort of thing, where they've also posted a lot of
refugees,
so-called refugee immigrants. Yeah, so that's who their patients are most of the time. So great,
yes,
you know?
Horrible.
So much for leaving. Basically, so much for leaving Africa.
And you get followed by Africa. Africa
It's only
follows
Canada was nice.
Canada. Yeah, Canada's definitely not nice. It's a dump. Bill Hammond says the solution is to get rid of BBBEE, so broad-based Black economic empowerment, and employ people who are qualified to do the work. Yeah, I agree with that, Bill. But you know, the reality of it is that it's a lot more difficult to do that. You'd have to get rid of the ANC before they get rid of broad-based Black economic empowerment.
It's too integrated. I mean, there's way too many people who are benefiting from it as it currently stands to get rid of it, unless you have like some sort of, you know, like either an authoritarian government or like the public just totally turns on the party and wants to have, you know, get rid of them and their policies. But I don't see anything that would suggest that. So, I mean, the public is, you know, they're not on board with it enough. So, and, you know, I don't see any reformist types coming up who, you know, want to change this. So it's,
yeah,
I think we're stuck with it, unfortunately.
Yeah. So Capella says, off topic, but what are your thoughts on the current issues in Chicago, i.e. FGB duck shooting and the driller rap scene, all vid supported by YouTube monetized advertising? I've got no idea what that comment. I've got no clue what that comment means. Sorry, Capella. No idea. No clue. Sideline Opinions. ANC SACP has created enough dependents to keep them in power indefinitely, just like ZANU PF. I could pretty much agree with that as well. As always, Sideline Opinions. Thanks for coming around. We missed you. I think you missed a couple of our shows, recent ones. The traditional respect for monarchy in African culture will keep them loyal to the king as long as the king is king. Yeah, correct. The man with the biggest stick. But don't diss monarchy. Careful now. Anyway, there's a big difference between Western monarchy and African monarchy, though. That's a big point. But anyway.
Yeah, it ain't Swaziland ain't Liechtenstein.
Yeah, Yeah, exactly. And also, African cultures are very much matriarchal cultures, not patriarchal cultures, as most Western cultures are. And all the like Zulu oaks and stuff, they try to argue with me, and they're like, "How can you say that, man? We're like hardcore and violent and stuff. We're patriarchal." And I'm like, no. You're raised by your mother, okay? Your men sit around and do nothing while the women go and tend the field, and your women raise your kids. So you are a matriarchal society, just like Arabs and all of them. They're all matriarchal societies. Anyway, he refused to give him drugs. Is that with regards to the Sudanese guy? That's disgusting. It says that doctor's brother was murdered at Swartkop race course in a robbery a couple of years ago. He left for Canada just to be killed with a panga. Yes, that's rough, eh? Yeah, we were talking about that earlier on, about why people immigrate and stuff, and how hopeless they feel with the legal system and stuff. And that is just, wow. That's tragic. I mean, absolutely terrible. Good God, that's horrible. Anyway, on that note, thanks for that sideline opinions. Wow. Anyway, on that note, I think we're ready to basically cut it an evening. We've been going out for just over an hour. Guys, please, those of you that are listening, like the video, subscribe if you're not subscribed, share the video, share our chat if you guys enjoyed it. And we're just about to, apparently, I think we're still just about to go dark at about 8 o'clock. Load shedding. Thanks, Escom. Anyway, yeah, Capella, I'll look into that. Drop a small red pull. Also, new WAP song, all pushed by children. I don't know. Anyway, I'll have a look at that, Capella. But thanks for coming. Yeah, sort of pop culture stuff. I'm not really into pop culture and all of that. But anyway, thank you so much, Russell. Sorry, I didn't ask you, Russell. Do you have anything else that you wanted to say?
No, I've said everything I can say. I'm just I've said enough.
Cool. Those of you that are listening, you will know Citizen Guardian, the prepper dude. He is going to be coming on our show sometime next week, all load shedding dependent. But we will notify you guys and post up links and stuff when he's going to be coming on. Anyway, thank you so much for listening, guys. Have a lovely weekend, and so remember to stay reactionary out there, because
God wills it.
God wills it.
Wills it. There we go. Peace out, everyone.